Okay guys, this is going to be a video to go over your chapters 1 and 2 Algebra Connections test review. So number 1 says this: write a description of each of the three cars on the graph below, comparing their value and age. Decide with your team a possible make and year for each car. So let's look at all of them here, okay? First one is C. We'll start with C. Very old car and doesn't have very much value. So it's a very old car with little value. That's what I put down for C. F, that's a newer car. Oops, newer car. And that has kind of a mid value. And then the last one we'll do is R. Pretty expensive car, and pretty older car. That is pretty expensive. So we're going to say the F, we're going to say that's maybe about a 2009 Ford Focus, we'll say. We'll say C, we'll say a 1995 Chevy van, and we'll say R, so Rolls-Royce, and maybe that's like about a 1999 Rolls-Royce, something like that. So that'd be the answer for number 1. C is a very old car with very little value. F is a newer car with mid value. C is an older car that is pretty expensive. I said a 2009 Ford Focus, 1995 Chevy van. Maybe R is a Rolls-Royce, that's 1999. Okay, number 2. The graph at right provides information about two tile patterns. Describe each tile pattern based on the information provided in the graph. How are the patterns alike? So, tile pattern A starts with 2. And it looks like at 1, it's up there at 8. So it grows and grows by 6 tiles each figure. Then we have B, which also starts at 2. That starts at 2 tiles. And that one at 1 looks like it's only at 4. So, and grows by 2 tiles each figure. Okay? So how are the patterns alike? They both start with 2 tiles. How are the patterns different? A grows faster. And I can tell because the graph is steeper. Okay? Now for number 3, we have to solve for x. So they have a couple two-step or multi-step equations. And when I do that, I need to get the variable isolated on one side of the equation. So if I'm doing this one here, I like to draw a fence down through the equal sign. That tells me whatever I do on one side, I have to do on the other side. So let's take off, right now I have 7x on one side and 4x on the other side. So what I'll start off by doing is taking 4 4 x's off of each side of the equation. And when I do that, on the right side of the equation, the 4x and the negative 4x, I don't have any x's left, so I just have 3. And on the right side, I have 7x and negative 4x, so that's going to be a total of 3x. And then when I still have that minus 3 there. Okay, now I need to isolate x all by itself, and I'm going to do that by making a 0. And if I add 3 tiles to that side, I can take the negative 3 and positive 3, and that'll become 0. So I'm just left with a 3x on the left side. But if I add 3 to the left side, I also have to add 3 to the right side. I have 3 and 3, so I have 6 total tiles. And then what I have to do is I have to undo multiplying x by 3 by dividing both sides by 3. 3 divided by 3 is just going to be 1x, and 6 divided by 3 is just going to be 2. So the answer for the first part is just going to be x is equal to 2. When I do my other side of the equation, again I make my fence down through the equal sign. I've got to use the distributive property to get rid of the parentheses on both sides of the equation. So I'll take 6 times negative 2, and that's going to be negative 12. And I take 6 times negative x, and that's going to be minus 6x. On the other side, I take negative 5 times 2x, and I get negative 10x. And negative 5 times 4, and that's like negative 20. Okay, now I've got to isolate x on one side of the variable, one side of the equation. Right now I have x's on both sides of the equation. So what I'll do is I'll try and add 10 x's to both sides so I can zero out the right side. So if I have add 10x there, I also have to add 10x over here. Now the 10x and 10x, negative 10x and positive 10x make 0. So I'm just left with negative 20 on the left side. Remember, I have to take that negative sign down with 20. On the right side, I have the negative 12, and then I have 10x and negative 6x. So I have a total of 4x. I've got to isolate x all by itself, so I've got to make zeros with that negative 12. I create a 0 with negative 12 by adding 12 to both sides. So the negative 12 and positive 12, that just makes 0. So I'm left with 4x over there. And on the right side, I'm going to take those 12 positive tiles with 12 of my negative tiles to make zeros, and I'm going to be left with 8 more 0 tiles there. So it's going to be, or 8 more negative tiles, so it's going to be negative 8. Then I can divide both sides by 4, and on this one, I get x is equal to negative 2. That's how you do the first page. Okay, I'll flip it over one more problem. I'll do one more problem here. Number 4. Points negative 2, 3. So negative 2, 3, which is right there, and 4, negative 6 are marked on the line as shown. 4, negative 6 is right there. Find 3 other points that would fall on this line. Write their coordinates and form x, y. So, well, it goes through the origin, so I know 0, 0 is a point on that line. And I can go over 2 and down 3. So 2, negative 3 is also going to be on that. And if I go right over here, I'm going to take 6, negative 9. That looks like it's also going to be on that line. And the cool thing is, what I'm noticing here is if I take my x and multiply it by negative 1.5, I get a y. If I take my x and multiply it by negative 1.5, I'm getting my y. If I take my x and multiply it by negative 1.5, I'm getting my y. If I'm taking 2 and multiplying it by negative 1.5, I'm getting my y. So that's how I can find any point on that graph. Find 2 points that would fall on this line that cannot be seen on the graph. Write the coordinates as form, as x, y, and form. Explain how you found them. So what I'm going to do, I can just even pick 100 for x. If I multiply 100 by negative 1.5, it's going to be negative 150. That's 1 point that's going to be on there. And then let's try another one. Let's say like negative 50. If I take negative 50 and I multiply that by negative 1.5, I get positive 75. So what I'm doing is I'm taking my x and multiplying it by negative 1.5 to get my y. And that is how you do the first 4 problems on your test review.